Under the same moon, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World, our weekly legal review with criminal defense attorney Calvin Johnson, a 24-year criminal defense attorney out of Dallas, Texas. Tonight, we're going to really deep dive again into the Karmelo Anthony case, but tonight we're going to focus on how this whole thing started. I'm going to express some of the notes that I'd taken in regards to what the student said happened right at the offset of this whole altercation. Let's bring on criminal defense attorney Calvin Johnson. Welcome in, Calvin.
Man, how you doing, Mel? What's going on?
All is well, all is well. So we've been covering this case really steady. I figured before we get started, I just wanted to hit the timeline one more time and get you to set the tone for how this all started. So in the video, they showed a blurred video. You see Karmelo coming from one direction from the left. You see the Austin and his brother and a few other guys coming from the right. Here are the times. Austin and his brother Hunter, they arrive at the tent at 9:54 a.m. Okay. Karmelo arrives at 9:56 within 2 minutes. At 10 o'clock and 48 seconds, they start fighting. Okay, just a few minutes. At 10 o'clock and 53 seconds, the suspect ran. So it's almost 5 seconds that this whole stabbing took place. By 10:05 and 30 seconds, the police arrived. Calvin, what do you say?
Well, first of all, that's very, very quick. Number one. Number two, of course, you got a situation at a track meet, but it doesn't take long for something like that to kind of happen. If you got an altercation between two students, it doesn't take very long for something to go south. So but it's early in the morning. It's a track meet. That's standard. But like I said, at the track meet, it didn't take very long at all for something to go bad, especially when we know ultimately what happened in this situation.
Okay, very good. So I want to break this down to you according to what's basically said. It is what it is. No spin to it, but I kind of went through my notes and put it in chronological order. Okay. So this is the way that the witnesses who came, this is how they portrayed the event. Basically, they said that Eddie is there. Karmelo walks in, sits down. Okay. The first thing that's heard is basically Karmelo yells out, "You guys are ass."
Mm-hmm.
This is what Eddie is saying. Another guy basically kind of added to that, drawing it up that basically Karmelo is telling them they're garbage, maybe in regards to football. But
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that they're saying in court that triggered it is Karmelo says your ass. Eddie, in fact, when Toby Shook asked him, why would you give him dap after he started calling you guys ass and all of that? He gave a very slight explanation, but that's the point. So I want to tie that together with him starting off. Let's say that's true, right? What
Mm-hmm.
they're saying. I want to now show you a video of what Hunter says, and it kind of ties into what these individuals said in court. All right. Can I show you
Okay.
this?
Yeah, I want to
All
see that.
right. Okay, let's get to it.
Perfect.
Incomprehensible scene in Frisco, Texas, just 20 miles north of where I sit here today. A high school track meet yesterday turned deadly. 17-year-old football star Austin Metcalf was stabbed in the heart and left to die in his twin brother's arms after a fight broke out yesterday. The suspect was allegedly told he was sitting in the wrong seat in the stands of the stadium before drawing a knife and attacking Austin. Police have yet to reveal what led up to that moment, but we do know the other student has been charged with murder. Joining me now is Austin's mother, Megan Metcalf, and his twin brother, Hunter. Megan, Hunter, thank you for being with me today. I can't imagine how difficult of a day, and I have to start with how sorry I am of what you're going through this morning, this afternoon. I think I'd like to just start, I'd love to just start with tell me about Hunter. If you could, Megan, tell me about your son.
I think I can speak for her for a little bit, see if she just calms down just a little bit. But as me, I know I'm a little more, spontaneous. I like to do stuff all around and just get out of line sometimes. And, Austin's always was there to check on me and keep me straight so I wouldn't be in trouble and do anything like that.
Hunter and Megan, whenever you feel ready, jump into the conversation. If you never feel ready, that's completely understandable to me and everybody else watching. Hunter, thanks so much for being able to do this today. Just a little more about your brother, Austin. From what I understand, I think he has it in his social media bio, 3.96 GPA student, certainly definitely into football. And it looked, when I was looking into him last night, he was very interested in being recruited to play football in college.
Yes, sir. He was very highly recruited, just like coming out of his junior year. He's had a really great year, and everyone on the team, coaches, everyone knew around the area just knew he was about to do big things in football. But besides his GPA, man, that dude was extremely smart, always in the books. He just came to him real easy, and just him playing with football as well just made him just a great person overall.
Megan, we'll try this again, both of us, and we'll see how far we get. When I read your story last night, obviously this is not about me. I have a 17-year-old son. I live 20 miles south of you. My son's in Frisco every night playing soccer, and we have a lot of friends of friends who knew Austin. So the circles got tight, and this hit really close to home. And I'm just so sorry for you. Can you explain us at all today how you feel? It's just got to be so. The word I keep coming back to, Megan, is incomprehensible. How could this happen at a track meet?
It is.
Based on what we're seeing here in the video, the mother was the same way in court all day, and you could hear her verbally. You want to speak on that briefly? Is that normal in Texas? I know in New York it's rare.
Well, it's a situation where she's probably in a situation, she's in mourning. I mean, at the end of the day, you lose your son, you lose your kid. That's tough. My mom, we lost our brother. My mom just goes through bouts of sometimes wanting to cry, and he wasn't killed or anything. We just happened to die early. But my mom goes through these bouts where she just doesn't want to talk, and she'll start crying randomly. And I can imagine losing your son in that type of situation. That's a very tough situation for anybody. And I think that we got to be aware of that. When I say aware of that, whether you're black or white, or we're making it racial or not, I think everybody needs to understand whether you like the kid or whether you like, whether it be Austin, or Hunter, or Carmelo. At the end of the day, you got young men involved that have mothers. And so you got to be able to understand that when somebody loses their child to death and another one loses their child to prison, that's going to be a tough road to hoe, especially to the one who loses their child to death because they died. So it's going to be a tough situation. They're going to be very emotional. And if they go to court, people that are sitting on the jury, regardless of whatever their son was, bully, whatever, this and that, they're going to say, yeah, but he doesn't deserve to die for being a bully. So you got to really start thinking about those things and have to be honest with the way you think about people in cases and the way you think about human beings. And so when you're looking at a jury, and I'm not siding with either side when I'm talking about this. I'm just talking from a lawyer's perspective. You do have to understand that a jury is going to look at that lady and say she lost her son, and you got to really understand that they're going to be sympathetic to that. I mean, that's just human.
Okay, we'd like to ask everyone to hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Calvin, could you take a moment before we get started, tell everybody who you are, what you do?
My name is Attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I'm a 24-year, almost 25-year practicing attorney. I am in the Dallas, Collin County area. I practice mainly in Dallas, but the second county I practice is in Dallas. I mean, it's in Collin. And so when I look at it, I practice, I would say 70% of my criminal defense is in Dallas. If you're just looking at defense law, I would say about another 20% is in Collin, and I would say 10% is everywhere else. Uh, so that's where I kind of practice law. And so at the end of the day, that's kind of how I practice law. And once again, I have knowledge of the Dallas County courts, the Collin County courts, Judge Roach's particular courts, how the system down here works in Dallas and Collin County, and the lay of the land of the attorneys that are down here and how things work here in Texas. So that's kind of what I do.
Okay, so guys, we're getting started. I'm about to show you in the video, but according to my notes from court and what I recall, some of the students, when they came in and gave their testimony, they tried to say, especially Eddie, that Karmelo came under the tent. And the first thing that triggered this, he said, your team, you guys are ass. Your team is ass. You guys are peas, talking about a woman parts, right?
Mhm.
And that's what triggered others saying that Hunter started first.
Mhm.
Then Austin kicked in. All right. So pay attention in the video when Austin recants what happened. All right, let's check it out.
She just took my son is gone, and I don't really have words. I've tried to figure out what I was gonna say, but he's just gonna be so missed by mostly our family, but this whole community has really wrapped their arms around us. And if I could say anything to the nation, I would say to make sure that you just hug your babies tight, because you don't know when the last time you get to do it.
Hunter, I know you were there. Thank you, Megan. Take your time. Hunter, I know you were
Yes,
there
sir.
when it happened. What can you tell us about what happened at that track meet? How could this thing that seems like is not on the menu of possibilities could happen? Again, I was at a track meet, by the way, on Tuesday. This is not something you think could ever happen. How did it happen?
So it was a really bad storm in the morning, and they had a lot of delays. And me, my brother, a couple of kids were walking back from the field house of the middle school, because we attended that middle school when we went to middle school, and we were saying hello to old coaches and catching up with them. And then we're walking back to our stand. We put our tent up so all the bleachers were right there, were not wet from all the rain. We come back, we sit down, and this kid said something behind me. I've never met this kid in my entire life. I never knew who he was. Said something just inappropriate and uncalled for. And I turned around and asked him who he was. He started getting really aggressive. My brother stepped in. He started being, how he always is with me, just brothers.
All right, this is the same picture that many in court tried to paint, even the black kids. Some of the black kids said they turned around too and said, "Get out of here. Who are you talking to?" So evidently
Mhm.
they heard what Carmelo said. This is
Okay.
according to court. So
Okay.
based on that trigger, if that's true, right?
Mhm.
But yet Austin goes toward him. We know what happened. Can you explain to us how this works in Texas?
Well, what happens is when those words happen and then they start to engage each other, that's going to be that's where you're going to have the confrontation. Now, if he's there, that's not really, I guess, his school, but he's under the tent. Now he can be there, I guess, because maybe he knows Eddie. But with that being said, um, the verbal confrontation kind of starts. So that's number one, that you kind of that kind of starts that verbal confrontation. Now, I guess that is what kind of starts everything, because it seems to me, if you're there, um, that's going to be a little bit of an issue for him if he was the one who started the verbal part of it. Now, that doesn't give anybody the right to start putting your hands on people, because you got to keep your hands to yourself. But it does put a little bit of a different spin on it. Also, the other thing that I always have concerned about, because he did not testify, if that is what you have to go on, because Carmelo didn't testify or didn't openly tell his side, that also is going to be a problem for Carmelo, because without anybody knowing his side, that's what you're walking on. So if he comes in starting that verbal part of it, and it's under their tent, that creates a little bit of a different dynamic.
Okay, so let's go through the timeline and try to break it down. I'm going to go in accordance to what you just saw in the video. So at 9:54, Austin arrives along with Hunter under the tent. 2 minutes. At 9:56, Carmelo arrives under the tent. By 10 o'clock, they're fighting. So you only have a good 4 minutes. Eddie says that Carmelo tells the crowd, "You guys suck your ass," right?
Yeah.
Now you hear Hunter say, he turns around, and then all the kids are saying, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah.
And Austin goes to take him out within 4 minutes. The prosecution is trying to say you started it verbally, he came towards you, and he ended up getting stabbed. That's murder one. Can you explain what this is what they're saying in court. So
I don't think that flies from the prosecution, because even if he verbally starts something with you, you don't get to put your hands on him. I mean, there's other options. No, he's not threatening you. Maybe he's insulting you. Even if that's the case, you don't get to put your hands on that particular person. You either get somebody else to tell them to get up out of there, but you don't put your hands on them. Now, if you put your hands on him, and let's say you push him or you touch him, he doesn't get to stab you, though. And see, the biggest problem that I'm having and trying to explain this to everybody is proportionality, which I've said to several people several times, and I continue to get this pushback. And I want to make myself clear tonight. In Texas, the law is the law. If somebody pushes you, you don't get to stab him in the chest. If somebody pushes you, you get to use the same kind of force in proportion. And there's two kinds of force when it comes to proportionality. There's non-lethal force, which would be a punch, a kick, or a hit, or a push. And then there's lethal force, which would require a weapon, whether that be a gun, a knife, a stick, or a sharp weapon. So you cannot respond to non-lethal force with lethal force. If you do respond to non-lethal force with lethal force, the burden is on you to show why you did that. Because let's say Mel push you, you stab me in the chest. That's not self-defense unless you tell me why you stabbed me in the chest. Now, I push you, you stab me in the chest, Mel, but let's say I push you, Mel, I'll tackle you, and I start punching you in the chest, and then you fear for your life, and then you start you're worried about it because you got epilepsy, then you stab me in the chest, then that's justified. But if I punch you and you stab me in the chest, and then I die and you don't testify, you don't tell me why you did it, the jury's going to find you guilty and you're going to go to jail, potentially for a very long time. So I think the problem is what you had this Carmelo case, you had a situation where we at least know that there's a push, and everybody says there's something else, but the only way you get to if there's something else is if Carmelo testifies, and he didn't, because he has to be the one to tell you what else happened. You can't assume something else happened. So if he doesn't tell you something else happened, he's going to be up behind the 8 ball, because even if a push happened, he doesn't get to stab the kid, because that's lethal force, and that's out of proportion. And so the biggest problem I have with explaining that to people want to disagree with me when I talk to them about that. And literally, this is probably going to be the last night I'll talk about it, because it's okay to want to disagree with me, but it doesn't matter, because I'm going to continue to say that, because that's the way the law is. It's not something you actually get to disagree with me on. The law is the law. If we get to court, we got to deal with it. And so that's the problem that we're having. If I'm Carmelo's attorney, I want to be in a position where I can call him so he can explain that, so he'll have a better chance of getting a good result, which means either getting off, getting manslaughter instead of murder, getting criminally negligent homicide instead of murder. But a push in a situation like that under a tent, based on a verbal, you can't. That's not going to work. Hunter and them are not able. Hunter and Austin, they cannot touch him on verbal stuff. But if they do, he can only respond in like kind. He can't respond using deadly force. If he does respond using deadly force, he's going to have to get an explanation that is proportional to that response.
Okay, so because this kid is 16 years of age, I won't use his name. I'll say he starts with an H.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually used the right term. I had to go back and find it. He says that Austin used a lineman drill. That's the name of the move, a lineman drill. I don't know much about football. Maybe you want to elaborate, but
A lineman drill is where you basically, you kind of line up and you go at a person, but you get under like their shoulders, and you get under their shoulders, you control them. And so, like I told you, one of my best friends in college was a lineman, and you get under their shoulders, you can control them and move them. Now, if he uses a lineman drill, then that could be a situation where, if Carmelo, being a smaller man, being a smaller kid, smaller guy, is getting controlled by somebody that's more than 100 pounds heavier than he is, that could be a situation where Carmelo might be able to use more force to respond, because he's smaller and he's in a very vulnerable position. But even in that case, if he used the lineman drill, Carmelo's going to have to come in and talk about that, because he's going to have to tell them, when the lineman drill was used on me, I feared for so I did A, B, and C. I went a little further because I felt like, that's the thing people have to understand. You can't get it in openly and clearly through somebody else. It needed to come in through him.
okay, this other kid that just went to North Carolina, his name starts with, we'll call him Jay. This is how he describes it. He's a little black guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says, Austin asked him to, and these are notes that I took in court, folks. So just so you know, Austin asked him to leave. He never raised his voice. Going back and forth, Austin pointed out his hand was in his backpack. He already knew what he wanted to do. Austin said, "You don't have anything. We're from Frisco." And then he says, he mentioned the linebacker. He was a linebacker. He says, Austin grabs his hoodie and started to grab him out of his seat. So this kid is saying, one kid said he used this lineman drill. The guy named Jay says that he actually pulled the boy out of his seat.
Mm-hmm.
So before he stabbed him, or he realized he was stabbed, he already had him out of his seat or off the floor. You know what I mean?
And see, that's exactly why, when you got different stories being told, like to these two kids, and you got these other kids that were on the other side telling it, saying it a different way. That's why it's extremely important for Carmelo to be able to come in and say, hey, it's not the way that they say happened. It's more the way that these other guys kind of say happened, in terms of that being a lot more aggressive. And so that gives more credence to him being able to respond a little bit more aggressively. So that would have been very, very important. And see, that's what it kind of goes back to what I said. It goes back to what I've been talking about. It would allow Him testifying will allow him to make a better proportionality argument.
Okay, I need to set the record straight. A lot of people are talking about he was jumped. We saw the video. He was not jumped according to the video in court. Also, all of this putting him in a headlock, all of that stuff couldn't have happened because we saw the video in court. Unless you're saying that video is fake. These details that are coming from this mysterious video that was never ever showed anywhere, and still no one can prove this video. You hear all of these strange things, but we did not get it in court. So, Calvin, the prosecution, we're going back.
hmm
Karmelo, let's say it's true what they're saying. He comes into the tent, he daps up Eddie, he sits down, he says to the group, "You guys suck." Just like when people come in the comment section all day that they're trolling.
Yeah.
Let's say he said that you guys suck, you're peas, right? Things like that. Does it give Austin the right to give him a lineman drill and take him up off his seat, pick him up off his seat?
Hell no, you can't do that. That's not for him to do. You're not in the right by doing that. If you do that to somebody, that's a problem, especially if you're a bigger guy. Can't do that.
So how are they able to say Carmelo went there, he instigated these guys, got one of them to run his way just so he could poke him? That's the narrative they're giving in from the prosecution.
And see, that's one of the reasons why, once again, I said if Carmelo testifies, he probably should tell the jury, hey, it didn't happen that way. Because ultimately, and I always tell people, yeah, everybody goes, he has a constitutional right not to testify. He definitely does have a constitutional right not to testify. But when they impanel that jury, they're going to say, the jury, you need to give the proper weight to the testimony you did hear. And so proper weight to testimony you did hear, which means they hear all of this other stuff, but they didn't get to hear you. So they're not going to give you any weight about what happened. And they're going to give testimony that they did hear weight. So some weight over no weight beats that situation. So I would definitely want to see if we could, if I'm getting him on the stand, I would definitely want to see if I could get some information coming out of my client's mouth to help him.
Okay. On the screen, you have a 3.5. This is what basically we saw in court. It was a little bit different as far as the configuration, but it was roughly a 6-in-1 tool. But this blade is pretty accurate, 3.5 inches. It seemed like the blade in court was a little wider, but anyway, this gives you an idea. A lot of people are saying it was just a little nail file. Can you break this down from the standpoint of Dallas, Texas, or McKinney, Texas, Collin County, or whatever?
Well, basically, I think this is what it was like, a tool, like an all-in-one kind of multi-purpose tool. But these kind of multi-purpose tools are not allowed into school facilities. They're not allowed into track meets and school events. They're not allowed in courthouses. When you try to get into one of those places, one of those things, they'll make you throw them away. They'll leave them outside. They'll make you put them in trash if they catch them. But when you get into these environments, sometimes those metal detectors and stuff don't work, or they spend very little on security. So sometimes these things get through. But those things are not illegal per se to carry with you on your person on your day to day. But they have signs out there that says those things are prohibited. So if you have one of those things inside of a sporting event or campus or a school related activity, then you could be charged with something. It could be confiscated, and you could potentially get a ticket, get a fine, or be charged with a criminal offense because they told you could not bring it in.
Someone commented that because he was an adult, he wasn't yet 18. He could only carry it if he was with an adult. Is that true, or is that just?
No, that's not going to really, that's not really matter.
Okay, very good. I'm glad you cleared that up. That was a comment today. So let's move on a little bit. What is the deep issue here? If what we just laid out is the case, How does that turn into 35 years?
I think the problem is for most people, uh, you're looking at a potential murder charge or a manslaughter charge or a criminally negligent homicide charge. Criminally negligent homicide is a 2 to 10 case. 2 years to 10 years tops is the punishment. 2 years is the low end. A manslaughter, which is a 2 year to 20 year case, which would be minimum 2 years, maximum 20 years. Murder is a 5 to 9 years to life case, which is a first degree murder. And so murder requires with the going there with the intent to knowingly, intentionally, and recklessly cause the death of another. And in this particular situation, I guess they're trying to say that Carmelo went there with the intent of doing what he did that day. And I think that's where the majority of the people have the problem. Um, I think that if he would have testified, I think him testifying alone could have gotten us to a manslaughter. The reason why I think you take the risk of him testifying, even if they find him guilty of manslaughter, he's still topping out at 20, right? So, so I'd rather take the chance of him testifying, them getting him on a manslaughter, and even if they give him the max, it's 20, it's not 35. So I think when you look at it, I think that's the problem a lot of people are coming up with because they're looking at similar cases across Texas and people are getting 15, 10, 12, 5, you know what I mean? And
Right.
so, and that's the issue. But once again, a lot of those other people's cases ended up getting found guilty of either manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, or lesser included. Or if they did get found guilty, they testified in punishment or even testified in the case in chief. You got a situation where you're claiming self-defense. You use a knife when the other person did not have a weapon. So you have to justify the fact that you used a knife, which is lethal force, and the other person did not use lethal force. So if you're not testifying why you're using lethal force, you're kind of behind the eight ball because they're going to say, hey, your response is out of proportion. And then a lot of people are going to say, well, what am I supposed to do? I didn't know that. How is a person getting ready to fight somebody? And well, that's just what the law is. I mean, if you're going to respond using a deadly weapon, you got to be fear. You got to be in fear of death or imminent bodily injury, or serious bodily injury. If you're not, if you can't show that, if you can't prove that or show to the jury that that's what you was worried about in that moment, you're gonna have a problem. They're gonna find you guilty,
Okay, very
and I
good.
know what
So
happened here.
yeah, I'm not sure. So in court, it was testified. They actually showed us a picture of the knife laying in the bleachers. It had blood on it.
Hmm.
They said it also had bone on the blade of the knife. But when they actually passed around the sweater and all sorts of things, right? Um, they basically used a replica. They didn't use the same knife. Typically, in these cases, they'll put it in a clear
Hmm.
bag and pass it around to the jurors. But in this case, they didn't bring the real knife to court. Why is that the case?
Well, sometimes they want to retain that piece of evidence to make sure that they have enough blood to test. Sometimes, because of the nature of it and its actual, could be actual blood on it. Sometimes you don't want to wash that off just in case you have to test that later. So sometimes that's why it might be a replica type situation.
Okay, so Toby Shook was able to cross up Eddie. So Eddie, everybody testified Eddie was there, and Carmelo came and sat down and gave him dap. Eddie testified that he was, I think, at a different location of the tent. Carmelo came and sat down. Then he came and sat down.
Hmm.
And so now the whole timeline is skewed.
Hmm.
And so Toby Shook says, so you gave it. And then Eddie says he started calling us ass and all of that. And
Hmm.
Toby says, so you went and gave him dap after he started calling you guys ass first? And he was like,
Hmm.
yeah. So what do you think about Eddie reversing all of these stories?
Man, I think Eddie, and I always tell you, and I think I told you in another situation, it's the flu here versus the grew here, right? When I say grew here, I think Eddie went to school with a lot of those kids at Memorial. I think he grew up there. I think he's a longtime resident of Frisco. I think these are the kids he grew up with. Carmelo, on the other hand, came from Louisiana. He may have only been here a few years, so he's not as deep in the trenches with Eddie and his group. And Eddie still, at the end of the day, and people have to realize he still have to live out there in Frisco. So what you don't want to do if you're Eddie per se is to be on Carmelo's side, knowing that you still got to go to school with some of the people that were friends with Austin and Hunter, knowing that this young man who you allegedly were friends with was the one who killed him. So I think that's kind of the dynamic that you got going there.
Okay. When Eddie gave his testimony, they talked about 10 days prior, and they also showed pictures that Eddie and Karmelo were sitting together on the field. Eddie acted like he couldn't remember it. Do you think it was possible that these guys knew each other?
Oh, definitely, they knew each other. I mean, I think that you pointed out to my Eddie and Carmelo, definitely. Yeah, you
No,
pointed.
Eddie,
Oh,
based on Eddie and the twins are on the same team.
oh yeah, they had to know each other.
10 days prior,
Oh
Eddie
yeah.
and Carmelo's together. Do
Uh-huh.
you think they interacted, the twins and Carmelo, is what I'm saying?
I don't think that they did. I don't know. I don't think that they would. I don't see them having a reason to. At these track meets, man, I mean, you got a lot of stuff going on. A lot of the track guys, they have to looking at the girls. You got, track meet going on. You got different events going on. I don't think they had any, I don't think they had any dealings with each other.
Okay. Hunter says it in the video. In the video, we're going to go back to it in a second. Hunter says that Austin grabbed the backpack of Carmelo, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was never mentioned in court. How do you think that could possibly be when it's on national television?
Wow. You should, as the as a defense attorney, you should be able to use that. You should be asking those other witnesses that came in there. That would be the very first question if I was the defense attorney, that I would be asking those kids. So, did did Austin ever grab Carmelo's backpack? And then if they say no, I pop that video up there. But what about what his brother said? I mean, those are some of the things that I think the defense could have done, especially on a wide use interview like that,
Okay. Yes, very good. So, for those of you that are just coming in, I just want to breeze through this one more time. I think it's very important. But the day that this happened, Austin and Hunter arrived at the tent at 9:54. We saw it on the video. At 9:56, 2 minutes later, Carmelo comes into the video. To the tent. At 10 o'clock and 48 seconds, they start fighting. At 10 o'clock and 53 seconds, the suspect is running. Okay, so basically, they're fighting only for 5 seconds. They're only in the tent roughly 4 minutes together. Calvin, can you expound on this?
If they're only in the tent 4 minutes together, whatever argument happened, that had to happen pretty damn fast. So
Oh, can I stop you?
whatever,
Can I stop you?
sure.
People are saying he was asked to leave 12 times. You can't ask him to leave 12 times in 4 minutes. You see the cap?
Yeah,
You see
exactly.
how the kids were
Yeah,
lying
yeah,
or not remembering correctly.
yeah,
Eddie says he only asked him to leave 3 or 4 times.
exactly.
4
And
minutes, folks. I'm trying to tell you.
yeah, and see, that's the thing, that's why in your head, you got to realize that you were playing an away game. You're in their tent, so you're going to have their witnesses in heavy. They just lost their friend, so they're going to tell the story very favorable for the prosecution. They're going to be easy to manipulate by the prosecutors to try to tell the story to the jury
Right.
because they just lost their loved one.
Okay. Very good. All right. So as far as the 4 seconds fighting to he's already running in 4 seconds, what do you say about that?
Whatever happened had to happen very, very quick. So my concern is what could have happened in 4 seconds to, number one, create a fight like that or an altercation like that, and how much fear could Carmelo be in that 4 seconds to knife him? And if and the reason why I say that, and I'm not saying he can't be in a lot of fear to have to knife somebody in that 4 seconds, but I'm gonna want an answer for that, right? So if somebody pushes you or tackles you or do whatever they're doing, I need to know from your mouth what you felt in a moment that you felt the need that when you had to stab him in the heart with a knife. I got to have answers to that, especially what you're telling me upon which the speed that happened. And see, to me, that even makes that box with Carmelo even tighter. And then that makes it even more important that he testify. And I keep saying this to everybody. Everybody says, well, he has a constitutional right not to testify. Yeah, you have a constitutional right not to testify, but sometimes it hurts you. And the reason why I say sometimes it hurts you. Now, can the jury it directly hurt you for it? No. But indirectly, if there's other pieces of information, they get to get in, but your information doesn't get to get in because you're the holder of it, then it hurts you.
Okay. One of the objections that I heard in the case, as each witness was about to leave the stand after their testimony, the prosecution basically asked them, um, who was Austin the aggressor? They say no. Was Carmelo the aggressor? Yes. Was this self-defense? They say no. Did he murder Austin? Yes. So at one time it appeared that they did try to object, but
Mhm.
the judge basically said it was an opinion based or what have you. In New York City, typically those type of questions, the defense attorney object. What do you think?
Yeah, they should have been objecting constantly. And that you preserve her by objecting. They shouldn't have been able to do that. That's something I would have objected on, and if they have allowed it, I would make sure I got a ruling on it, and that's something you appeal on.
Okay, very good. So this is the actual multi-purpose tool. The prosecution clearly said it was a knife.
Hmm.
Is there any argument there to try to say that this is just a multi-purpose tool? That's a big debate online right now. What is the law in Texas?
Um, there's not really an argument for it because it was used as a knife. As long as it has a knife in it, and the part of that multi-purpose tool that was used as a knife, it's a knife. It's not really anything to argue about. It's a deadly weapon if it is used as a deadly weapon. I'm going to give you an example. There was a situation where these kids because this kid got drowned or with what doing a fraternity pledge with some water. He was being pledged in with some water, ended up drowning with water. Water kept being poured. The waterboarded with one of the fraternities, and they got charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, or I think manslaughter, because aggravated assault with a deadly weapon because of water. The water was a deadly weapon. So people have to understand a multi-purpose tool that has a knife in it is still a deadly weapon, which means it is a weapon that would go past the proportion upon which you can use. So it's a useless argument to have. And that's the other thing I try to explain to people. People go, well, that's a multi-purpose tool. It's not a knife. It has a knife in it. It's not really something that's going to turn the case. Let's move on.
Okay, so let me ask you this. There's a kid, he's 17 then, he's an adult now, but we'll just call him San, okay? That's a part of his
Mhm.
name. Okay, he says that they were searched before going in. I don't know if they walked through a metal detector, but
Mhm.
he says that they were searched before going in. So the person searching, being that this was considered a multi-purpose tool, would they have made an exception because it's not labeled a knife, or would this have been
They
what
would have
would have happened?
confiscated it. They wouldn't have let him bring it in. They would have told him he couldn't bring it in.
Wow. Is there any recourse civilly? Because number one, Carmelo, there was no tent for their school, and two, for any of this
No,
multi-purpose tool.
no, because the school district and the schools have immunity. And I heard that they had a tent, but they didn't have enough people to put it up. And it kind of started raining all of a sudden. So there's not really anything you can go with there.
Yes, the police officers in court said that they use these multi-purpose tools all the time to cut seat belts at accidents.
Mm-hmm.
Just a side point that I noted in my notes.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments on that?
No, once again, as long as it can be used as a knife, it's going to be considered a knife.
Okay.
The knife part was used, so it really, that's it. What it is.
Okay. No argument there. All right, very good. I appreciate that. We're going to go back to the video. I want to just show you again another thing that Hunter says here.
My back.
Okay.
And things started getting more like higher intensity, and the kid said some like aggressive stuff. Like
I'm going to back it up a little bit. So
Yeah.
for those that are just coming in, just for Hunter's part.
attended that middle school when we went to.
Could ever happen. How did it happen?
So it was a really bad storm in the morning, and they had a lot of delays. And me, my brother, a couple of kids were walking back from the field house of the middle school because we attended that middle school when we went to middle school, and we were saying hello to old coaches and catching up with them. And then we're walking back to our stand. We put our tent up so all the bleachers were right there were not wet from all the rain. We come back, we sit down, and this kid said something behind me. I've never met this kid in my entire life, never knew who he was. Said something just inappropriate and uncalled for. And I turned around and asked him who he was. He started getting really aggressive. My brother stepped in. He started being, how he always is with me, just brothers, just having my back. And things started getting more like higher intensity. And the kid said,
So what he said is consistent to what a guy his name starts with a T. I think he might be still a minor.
Mhm.
He said that Hunter and them were the first ones to start on Carmelo. So based on what Hunter is saying, Eddie says he called them all ass. And now
Mhm.
you see that Hunter says he hears the guy saying things and he turns around and approaches him, talks to him. And then
Mhm.
Austin takes over. Any thoughts about that?
No, I just, it's just either way. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that's going to really matter a whole lot. I just think that once you started putting your hands on people, and then you're allowed a response, it's still just at the end of the day, you can't move somebody out of a tent if you're Austin and Hunter, but and vice versa. Just because somebody pushes you or put your hands, you don't get to stab him. And I think that ultimately still goes back to that.
Okay, I'm going to get back to this.
some like aggressive stuff, like reckless stuff, and also try to handle the problem. And
And then
So he says, right, that he was saying aggressive stuff. There's a guy, I think he was 16 at the time. His name starts with a K. All right, I won't say his name because he was a minor. He says
Mhm.
he says that Carmelo knew Eddie. He says the rain slowed them down before the stabbing. He says Melo sat next to him, said what's the he says the weather was crazy. So this guy admitted that there was talking going back between Eddie and Carmelo. Most
Mhm.
of the kids says that Carmelo said nothing, but this guy, he says Eddie is friends with Melo's girlfriend. Remember I told you her name
Mhm.
started with a V. Okay, and they were talking a little. He says that they point out Melo. Melo says, I'm a nobody. So they asked Melo, who are you? Melo says, I'm a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, and then he says, if you're a nobody, leave. Melo says, I'm not leaving. F y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what this guy's testifying.
Mm-hmm.
Melo started getting more aggressive. He said, F him. I'm not going to leave. Y'all a bunch of women, vaginas, the P word, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He says, y'all not gonna do anything. Austin takes the lead,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, brother, we don't want you to be here. That's what Austin says. And then it says, Mello removed the backpack from his shoulder, put it in his lap, and placed his hand in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
And he says Austin was reaching, and as Austin was reaching, he says that Mello stabbed him. So this is this guy's testimony. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, prior to him coming in, a whole day, the student says there was no cursing. This guy came in with the F word. And
Mm-hmm.
I think most of us then at that point is like, well, where's the F word come? How come all
Mm-hmm.
of the kids didn't mention any cursing? Because the prosecutor would ask, do you remember any cursing? And most of them would say no. But this guy, he introduced the cursing.
Yeah, the prosecutors, it seemed like it had most of those kids going off a script almost. So you got to be careful about that. But that's once again, that's where, like I said, and I keep going back to saying the same thing. I would have wanted Melo to be able to come in and say something, because you just got to get the gist of that argument with the way everything got told.
Okay. All right. Very good. I want to give time now for us to get through some of the comments. If you guys have questions, we're going to go through them now. Also, in a few minutes, I guess we could allow some to come up and join the conversation. So I'm going to go back and see if there's any comments. Any questions we can entertain. Here's one for you, Calvin.
The kids getting directions on the testimony should have caused a mistrial. Nah, the kids get directions on their testimony all the time. You don't ask them to lie, but at the same time, um, defense attorneys, if you have witnesses, you're going to prep them. You don't tell them to lie, but you want to get through the evidence. And so I think that typically that's what's going to happen. You're not going to get a mistrial in that particular situation. It is what it is. And somebody said the truth slowly coming, the truth slowly but surely coming out. Such an unfortunate situation. Um, I guess that is what stuff is coming out. But like I said before, the more that I talk to everybody and I try to tell people this, I get what everybody is saying about you, how you feel about the jury, how you feel about the trial went. I want Carmelo's side of the story. I mean, I want to hear from his standpoint what happened. My whole deal is I want to know what happened from your side. Tell me from your perspective what happened so that I can know what happened. If we're going to say, hey, a miscarriage of justice was happened here. The jury selection is funky. Hey, this person didn't receive a fair sentence, didn't receive a fair trial, didn't receive a fair verdict. Without knowing his side, I want to know his side. I want to know what happened. And so that's why I would like to hear his side of the story. I don't want to hear from somebody else. I want to hear from all these people. I want to know from your lips what happened. And I think that's a problem for us here. They said Melo was combative. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, most young men that are between 16 and 20, a lot of them are going to be combative with each other. So I could definitely see that. They covered up all the evidence, but the truth will prevail. I don't know. I mean, I would like to hear, like I said, I would like to hear from the young man himself. I mean, that's what I would like to hear from, because that to me would be very important for somebody. I know he has a constitutional right not to testify, but if you're going to claim self-defense and you're going to stab somebody with a knife when it's a push against you, you got to tell me why you did it. And so that's an issue. They covered up all the evidence, but the truth will prevail. Okay. What other comments you got coming up there, Mel? What else is there? Brother, yeah, okay. Okay, so
I think they're frustrated, but I'm reading the notes that were taken from witnesses in court, just a
mhm.
witness in their testimony. So I understand it, but we're just going through what was said in court. That's all.
And I
All
want to
right.
say one more thing to everybody. Uh, there's one more thing that I want to say to everybody. Two things. When I'm going back and forth with everybody, I want everybody to understand that what I'm saying, when it comes to the proportionality argument, you have to justify the proportion if you go above um, using non-lethal force, which means if you stab somebody because of a push or a punch, you're gonna have to justify that. That's not up for debate. If you feel like you don't have to, it's good for you to feel that, but the law is what it is. The other part of it is that when it comes to this kind of stuff, we understand how people are feeling. We understand the racial part of it and all the stuff that goes around there. But me and Mel today are literally going over what happened in there. He spent the time each day in that trial, took copious notes. And so that's what we're going through today.
Okay. There's another one.
Was Austin wearing track shoes? Didn't they fall? Is it possible Austin fell upon the object? Um, did anybody mention any of that, Mel, in any of the testimony?
Say that again, Calvin. I'm sorry.
Was Austin wearing track shoes? Didn't they fall? Is it possible Austin fell upon the object? Did anybody mention any of that?
No, there's no mention of him falling on it, but I explained that he did the lineman drill and how that all played out in most of our videos so far. So in essence, in the video that's very grainy, you could see Austin going to the right and then he goes back
Mm-hmm.
to the left.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes with so much force that he knocks Eddie out the way. Eddie says he falls down. So
Mm-hmm.
if you factor that in, and he's reaching down to grab Karmelo, who remains seated the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and one kid says he does this lineman drill that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
The other kid said he started picking him up, right? So
Yes,
at some point with all that force, he hits him and he stabs him. So there's a lot of force involved between the two of them.
exactly. And that's what I'm trying to make sure that everybody kind of gets the gist of that too, as well. That's kind of what it is. And one other person said, if people believe only Carmelo was cussing and no other teenager was cussing, that's ludicrous. And what I always try to tell people, yeah, these kids probably were going back and forth saying a whole bunch of stuff to each other. But I think ultimately, and like I try to tell people too as well, um, that stuff is what it is, whether they were cussing at each other or not, fine. But the more important part for me is, um, if you're going to stab him in the heart based on a push or a punch, come out and tell me why you did it, how you felt like you needed to do it. Because that's what the law of proportionality says in Texas that you got to have to do. And that's why you would have to testify. Now, the other part of it is, um, why didn't he testify? And like I told people before, there's several reasons why somebody sometimes can't testify. Number one, maybe they're concerned about what they'll have to testify to. Maybe the gist of what they have to testify to is not going to fit the law that's going to be able to get them off. Or B, there's something in their background, something in their phone, something videos, something stuff that is happening that they're afraid of when they get up there and testify that's going to hurt them more that's going to help than is going to help them. So those are some of the reasons why some people don't testify. So with that being said, maybe that's the reason why they didn't testify. And the other part of it that concerns me is that he didn't even testify in punishment. So if a kid doesn't testify in punishment, it tells me that there had to be something in his phone, social media. There had to be some bad stuff somewhere for you not to call your own client in punishment. So that's why I'm trying to figure out what that is. But once again, because I don't know Carmelo's side of the story, because he didn't testify, it's very hard for me to say what kind of happened. And that's the big question I think everybody's frustrated with.
Yeah, I spent so many days explaining how basically Eddie described how even Austin said to Carmelo, I'm gonna get your bitch ass out of here. They all were cursing. We went through this through every day so far. So today we're focusing on the prosecution, how it started, and they painted a narrative of what happened as Carmelo went there, said, hey, you guys are ass. Then
Mhm.
everybody's turning around saying, "Hey, who is this guy?" This all happens in 4 minutes. Hunter is the first one to say something to Carmelo, and then Austin jumps into him. This is the narrative that was presented by a lot of these different kids. So we're just looking at it to see does that substantiate a case. So that's what this is about tonight. A little different spin, and we're going to be bringing up Queen 88. She's here waiting, so too, to discuss this further. But Calvin, can you just give us a briefing? For those that are just coming in, it seems like some people don't understand.
And see, that's the thing where I'm having to break stuff down to people. In the state of Texas, when you have an altercation, and what I try to do, um, um, this is what I try to explain to people. When you are claiming self-defense, and we're in a situation, let's say me and Mel are having an altercation, I push Mel, Mel gets to push me back, that's acceptable. Mel gets to punch me back or kick me back, that's even acceptable. Um, what Mel doesn't get to do is pull out a knife and shoot me. I mean, pull out a gun and shoot me. He doesn't get to pull out a knife and stab me in the heart. He doesn't get to take a billy club or bat and hit me across the head. He doesn't get to grab a machete and cut me up. The reason why he doesn't get to do those things because the law of what we call proportionality, and because I used non-lethal force against him by pushing him or hitting him, he can't use lethal force against me back. The only way he can use that lethal force against me back, part two, is if he's justified in doing so by feeling like he was in threat of serious bodily injury or death. If he is, the onus is upon Mel to tell me why he felt like he had to use that deadly force against me. And see, the issue is Carmelo does have a constitutional right now to testify, but if you're going to claim self-defense, you're going to have to get to the jury why you felt that your response was in proportion after only a hit, kick, or a punch. And in this situation, it was at least a push or maybe a tackle, but you don't get to use a knife.
Okay.
And so even if it's a tackle, but you didn't even explain that because you didn't testify, most people are saying it's a push. You got an issue. So that's what's going on. His attorney should have advised this child who just turned 19 to take the stand. Okay, maybe, but once again, he either is not able to take the stand because of stuff that's there, or his story. We just don't know. Carmelo
There's
should
no,
have just pushed him back. Oh, man, great idea. To me, that works. Just pushed him back would have been great. His attorney discouraged him from testifying and knew it would be in his best interest. I get what you're saying, but I try to explain to people, yeah, it's in your best interest, but if you do that, you still have to answer my question. If you use lethal force against a non-lethal push and you don't explain it, then you're going to lose. Calvin, is the law parties applicable here? Hunter and Austin was trespassing in the commission of a crime, which was assault. Why can't Hunter and Truck? They're not trespassing. They're able to be, it's their tent. They're in the tent. They're not trespassing. The law parties don't work there. I mean, it's not, that doesn't even apply. They don't apply at all. The law parties doesn't apply there. That's saying that's their tent, but they're there on their side of the football field. How we know if this is what really happened? I feel like it's some missing pieces from the story. Charlotte Hamlet, let me explain something to you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. There could be some missing pieces. This is exactly why I would have liked Carmelo to come in, because he's the only one that has missing pieces. He's the one who's on trial. He's the one who has the most to lose if the missing pieces don't get in there. That's why you got to do it. Neither. The attorney told them what to do and they followed him. Is that misrepresentation? It's not, because once again, he could have had issues of why he couldn't testify. Maybe there's something in his phone, something social media wise, videos in his phone that could be very bad. Maybe his story wasn't going to fly based on what he was going to testify to. Maybe he's not a good witness. Sometimes those can be the cases. But with that being said, if you're going to use lethal force against non-lethal force, I still got to get my question answered. Pretty much, the coach invited him back after the suspension. Maybe, probably did. But with that being said, either way, I still got to get that question answered. And that's the part that I have. I think this is a very volatile situation. It's very touchy for everybody. It very touches the soul, especially if you have a son, if you've lost a son, if you have a son that has went to prison and is now in the system. It's a very deep, touching situation for everybody. But with that being said, the question still has to get answered. Did Austin, after being forwarded, Karmelo bluff? And didn't Austin have a background of breaking his father's collarbone? I don't know about all of that. But once again, I try to tell people you don't get to put the victim on trial the way the Texas rules of evidence happen. You don't get to put that kind of stuff up there and out there. So that's an issue.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Maga. Rest in peace to Austin Metcalf. Thank you very much for that. Queen 88, could you take some moments now and ask any questions that you have for Calvin?
Let me see from what he was saying. Okay. I had a question. It was right on the tip of my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, Calvin.
I could bring you back up.
Okay,
It's okay.
so let me ask you this. I'm sorry, what's that?
No, I'm saying I could give you more time, but if you're ready, go.
Let's go.
Yeah, okay, so let me ask you something. I don't understand this equal force stuff, okay? It's probably a statement, not a question. You're so basically you're saying it has to be equal force. If he pushes him, he has to push him back. If he does this, he has to do this back. Due to the point that he has medical issues.
It's not
I'm
really
not trying to wait for you to tell us when we supposed to be taking up for ourselves. They could have pushed him and
no,
bust his head on the back of a bleacher or something.
but
That's what I'm getting from you.
no, but let me make this clear. You can actually, what I try to say, you got lethal and non-lethal. So you have to understand proportionality. The way the law works is you can do non-lethal responses to non-lethal actions. If you push me, I can push you back. If you hit me, I can hit you back. If you kick me, I can kick you back. If you push me, I can kick you or hit you back. When you introduce a weapon, a deadly weapon, knife, gun, machete, brass knuckles, those type of things that can cause either death or serious bodily injury, that's out of proportion. And you're going to have to explain why you used a out of proportion response. Therein lies the problem that I have with Carmelo's case, because he very well, like you said, may very well had a fear that things were going to go south. If he was going to have that fear that things were going to go south, I would have liked him to come tell me that. And then I can say, okay, I understand why you had your knife out and you stabbed him in the chest now. But without that, he's kind of stuck because he's not testifying. I'm relying on this other evidence to explain why potentially
I see
I
what
felt.
happened.
See what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah,
that
I really
quandary.
don't see what you're saying. I'm not trying to be funny,
Yeah.
attorney. Let me
Hmm.
ask you something here. My dad went
Hmm.
to prison for beating somebody to death. So if he would
Hmm.
have beat him to death, would he get a murder charge? That's what we the people want to know. If he were to beat him to death and didn't use no weapons, would he still get a murder charge?
You possibly could, because what happens is you're defending yourself. Does defending yourself require you to beat somebody to death? It just
See,
depends on the situation. But it just depends on the situation. Now, let's say he punches him a couple of times and he dies. Well, you might not get a murder charge. But let's say he punches him 100 times. That you could get a murder charge. It just depends on the situation. But when you use a non-lethal weapon against somebody because they non-lethal weapon you're good. But when you use a lethal weapon against somebody that used a non-lethal weapon or action against you, you're in a bad situation. I'm sorry you don't agree with that or understand that, but I would implore anybody that's watching this to understand that, because if you're in that situation, that's what you're gonna have to do. It's not something that you can't afford not to understand. If somebody punches you, you can't stab them. If somebody pushes you, you can't shoot them. If you in that situation, you're allowed to use non-lethal responses to non-lethal actions. If
even if your
somebody,
hands are registered, sir.
even if what?
Even if your hands are registered, because
When
your
I
hands
say
could be a deadly weapon as well.
they could be a deadly weapon. See, and that's the difference there. So let's say somebody punches your dad and he's a martial artist. He has a little bit more of a responsibility there, because he's going to have to, knowing that he's a boxer, he may punch somebody a couple of times knowing that, hey, I got to punch him a couple of times to get him off me. Now, if he does that and they die, he's not really in any trouble because he just used a couple of punches. Now, if he punches them repeatedly 10, 20, 30 times, knowing he's a boxer and knowing he's a lot
Trained.
more skilled, trained, yeah, then he could be looking at that. And
Mm.
so that's those are the differences, and that's where your attorneys come in and make those arguments for you. And like I told you, and I'm telling everybody else, if Carmelo felt that kind of extra danger, I just need somebody to come and tell me he was feeling that way and why. I can't have a jury assume why he felt that way. He has to tell them. And nobody's telling him because we ain't heard his voice. To this day, I don't know how this boy sound, and I don't know his side of the story. And that's sad.
Mm.
Calvin, let me hop in for a quick second.
Mhm.
Queen 88. Queen 88 can tell you some of the witnesses came in. They gave him a tennis ball that they had to squeeze for comfort. I've never seen that before. Is that common? Or is
And
is it a underage thing? But the kid says he needed to squeeze his ball for,
he's asking me, Mel,
yeah. Or
man, I think that's a prop. That's a prop, man. I just did, you know, I had somebody. They got these things called stress balls, right? And some people use those to deflate stress. And a lot of people use those to deflate stress. Um, for me, it doesn't do it for me. But some people, it's a thing for them. But I've seen people use the little stress balls. I've seen those things used a lot. Some people use them. They're not big in our community, if you know what I'm talking about. But some people use those stress balls. I'm not a big user of those things. I think that's a problem.
so here's the thing. When the first student, I think he was 16, he needed to use the stress ball. I was like, wow, man, he must be really, I get it. You go through emotional things. But when the second and third student needed a stress ball, it kind of threw me for a loop. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. It looks like it's planned, like it's canned. It looks like very canned, like very scripted. And I don't like stuff that looks scripted, but some people that have not been to court, they might not have saw it that way. You're smart, Mel, because you've been through a lot of trials. I've seen a lot of trials. When I see stuff like that, I don't like it. It's a turn off to me. To me, that's a hustle. I feel like you're hustling me with that. When you got somebody, you got these kids squeezing the stress ball. Everybody got to squeeze the stress ball. Let's say 12 kids and 11 of them got to squeeze the stress ball. Nah, don't do me like that. Because some
Right.
kids will need it, but everybody don't need it, you know?
Yeah. Queen 88, what did you think about the balls? The stress
Um,
ball.
I felt like it was, I would say like a prop. First of all,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like all this was a movie, if you ask me. The cries out loud, it's like people cried on cue. Everything just seemed like theatrical. I feel like I was on Broadway. I was watching Broadway, very first time. So I felt like they were trying to put more emphasis on the aftermath. And I keep saying the aftermath. They rarely talked about how we got there a little bit. It was mostly showing us the aftermath of the situation. Like I say, the jurors were falling asleep. The judge was nodding off. They didn't take any notes. So it seemed like this was set up from the beginning.
I think the issue, I think what everybody was waiting on and what I would have been waiting on it is almost this, what I would have been waiting on. I would have been knowing that now Carmelo doesn't have to testify, he don't. But I would have been waiting on to hear from him. I would have been waiting on to, hey, what happened to you in there? Why did you have to respond so strongly? Were you afraid? Were they on you? What were you feeling? I would have wanted to know all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I would have been waiting on. And if I'm not getting that, some of the other stuff I'd have been like, yeah, but I want to know, like, what were you feeling, young man? What was going on right then and there in that particular moment? And I think that's a lot of what I would have been waiting on. But I also have the wherewithal to understand that, and I said this yesterday, man, if somebody dies, and I know we're gonna have this conversation, well, he don't have to testify, and he has a right, and his attorneys tell him, let me say something. When somebody die, you claim in self-defense in those circumstances, and you got the proportionality thing to deal with on top of all of that, and you're claiming self-defense, and no, you're not walking up out of there successful, and they don't even hear your voice. They don't even get to connect with you. See, that's the problem with me. It's like, to me, you made yourself almost like a prop, a thing. When I don't hear from a human being and I'm just sitting there watching them every day, and I got human beings coming in crying, feeling people that lost a loved one, whatever, but then I don't even get to even have a connection with this young because I don't even hear his voice. You know what I'm saying? You can't you can't do that. You can't put yourself in that situation because there's no way, as an attorney, I'm telling you, somebody dies, you gonna sit there a whole trial, they don't hear your damn voice, and you think you're finna walk up out of there. It ain't gonna happen.
I feel like, attorney, even if he were to still speak, the environment that he was in, he still wouldn't have made it out, to be honest. Whether he spoke for himself or not, it was already pre-planned.
But you still speak because I'm gonna tell you what that does for you.
Okay.
You still speak, number one, because the jurors get to hear from you. There is a small chance that one of them say, you know what, I agree with you. And you know what? I'm gonna hold my damn ground on that. Because guess what? All I need is one. And that's the other thing people are missing. You think I'm gonna have to convince 12. If I get one person that says, man, you know what? I can understand him being under that pressure. And I'm not changing my damn mind. Then they got to do it all over again. I'm okay with that. Or you get one person that says, you know what? Even if I do change my mind, I ain't finna get this boy a lot of time. We're gonna sit here all day. even if we found him guilty, until they come back with a low number when we get the punishment, I'm not going to do anything.
Okay.
And so you have opportunities to either A, win completely, B, get a mistrial, C, get a lesser charge by making everybody go to manslaughter instead of being murder, D, be in a situation where you get a lot less time if he speaks. And on top of that, guess what? When your attorney asks you questions, then there's going to be a lot of rulings on those objections, right? What happens if the attorneys on the other side ask you a question and the judge lets, and your attorneys object and the judge lets that question be answered and the judge makes a mistake? Guess what happens? Then you get an appeal. See, it allows you to be able to do what? It allows them to make errors that you can even use to even appeal on. That's why I would have wanted to hear his voice.
Calvin, real quick before we bring on Mama Flips, is there a circumstance to where Hunter would have been made to testify, and if he didn't, the jury would at least know that? I was just curious about that.
There could have been, but the state could have called him to testify. But I think you don't want to put your own you don't want to pressure your own witness like that. Now, the defense could have made him testify, but that's dangerous. The reason why I say it's dangerous because you don't know what he's going to say. If he goes up there, it could go good for you because you can catch him in some discrepancies, right? But sometimes jurors will be sympathetic for him because he lost his brother. Or he could say some stuff that could hurt your case because he can say some stuff upon which, if you're thinking about not calling Karmelo, then now you gotta call him, you know? So for sympathy reasons and the potential that he could say something that might force you to call Karmelo, sometimes you don't want to come off as attacking the brother of the dead kid. So there's like a 50-50. There's some good and some bad. And so they probably decided not to try to nail him to the wall and make him testify.
Okay. Let's introduce Mama Flips to the conversation. Say your piece.
Hi. No, I just came in just to pretty much say hi. Only thing, I mean, I was adding to the actual chat is I think Attorney Calvin is amazing. My concern about some of the statements is like, for example, when we talk about the multiple tools portion, or when we talk about the stand your ground portion, there's a lot of people that don't want to relitigate the case. That's not what our point is. Our point is to figure out if this trial had, was conducted improperly. If there was a failure of attorney, if there was a failure of describing, for example, the multi-tool topic is one of the ones I like to talk about because yes, we know there is a knife in it, and I know it was used in abusive manner. I mean, not abusive manner. It was used in order to unalive somebody. But isn't our role, a lot of people's role, is to find different ways to talk about the case, find where it was faulty, find different examples where you could appeal, right? In order to help Carmelo, especially a lot of advocates,
Mhm.
And I think sometimes Anthony Calvin is just a little stern in his reply when he be talking about, oh, these arguments is a non-starter or it's a silly or we shouldn't go that route. I don't agree with that. I agree there's certain things that we have to consider all around, but I think that if we are in the position where we are now, a lot of people are in the position where we want to actually figure out if this case, and then at the end of the day, what we're trying to figure out if this case was fair to this young man. That's pretty much And I think when Attorney Calvin was like, okay, the multitude is, sort of kind of, non-starter, and then you in turn use the water argument, which I found very interesting. And you said that somebody used water and they unalive somebody and they got the Mann Act or aggravated assault. That's exactly what we're talking about. We're saying that the fact that he had this multitude tool, it should have been considered a man, not man act, but I don't like to use the man word. Menace. Thank you, because we want to use a menace or assault. So when you use the water example, I was in my room like, yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do by talking about the multiple tool. So it's not really a silly argument, right? It's like it's probably not a non-starter for lawyers, right? But it's something that we want to consider because we really feel, a lot of us really feel that the ERDA one was too far. 35 years is too far. So this is why a lot of us are talking about these various tools, these various thoughts, these various laws, and you see what I'm saying?
Can I say this? The reason why I have to be stern is because I have to direct you to areas where you're going to get some success at. Your areas of success in terms of trying to appeal something like this would be the jury, the way that the three educators were struck. That's an area upon which you can try to get some resolve. You can try ineffective assistance of counsel, depending on how they explained what his rights were to testify or not to testify, or the consequences of him not testifying. Maybe they didn't explain everything to him as well as he needed that to be explained to him. The reason why I have to be so stern is because I want to make sure that people understand. And my additive to this conversation really is a little different from everybody else's, not because um, I think I'm smarter than everybody
I
else.
mean, you're
It's
in the
because
field, so
exactly. It's just I have to be stern because that's what I have to do. Every time that, even with clients that I deal with, I had to explain to somebody the other day. I said, one of my buddies who does martial arts, I go, well, we're gonna disagree about that. And I said, no. I said, no, we're not. I said, that's how it is, and that's just what it is. Like, that's not gonna change. And I just told him, I said, if I was taking martial arts classes from you and you were showing me A, B, and C, and if I didn't do A and B, I'm gonna get my face cracked if I don't do it. And that's not gonna be up for debate. If you show me how to defend myself from a particular move and I don't do that, my face is gonna get cracked. That's 100% gonna happen. And it's because that's your area of expertise. I gotta kind of listen to it and go from there. Now, not saying that I'm negating the arguments that everybody wants to make. It's just that I want to make sure that everybody everybody puts their arguments on things that they're going to actually produce results to actually help him. When I say actually help him, those jurors, that's the way you can go. The ineffective assistance of counsel, that's a way you might be able to go. Um, some of the rulings on some of the objections, that might be a way you could go, because if they didn't rule properly on some of those objections, that might be a way you could go. Um, um, those are the things that are going to give you more of a chance to actually have a positive opportunity to appeal. The appeal stuff is very, very, very book intensive. When I say book intensive, they're going to order a transcript. They're going to go through that transcript with a fine-tooth comb as an appeal attorney. He's going to look at what the Constitution Texas Constitution says, United States Constitution says, and he's going to look at previous case law, and then he's going to try to find out where the judge made a mistake constitutionally, case wise, evidentiary wise, and then he's going to put up challenges to particular things that happened in the case to say that there was error, not only error, but reversible error. To help everybody understand appeal, and this is why I'm kind of negating, maybe y'all sound like, I wouldn't say negating, that I'm saying stuff isn't that important. There's error, and then there's what we call reversible error. Just because there's a mistake, is that mistake big enough to cause him not to have a fair trial, right? So describing how a difference between a knife and a multi-purpose tool, is not going to be considered something that's going to be reversible error, because even though it's a multi-purpose tool, it contains a knife as one of the multiple purposes. That's not something that is going to, on appeal with the Texas Court of Appeals, going to turn that case around. What's going to turn that case around is if they messed up on striking those three black jurors that were educators. What's going to turn that case around is if they made some mistakes on rulings on objections. What's going to turn that case around is if Mike Howard, or even in explaining to the young man that they did not tell him everything that they needed to tell him to understand the consequences or implications of him not testifying and how it could hurt him. If they didn't do that properly, that could turn it around for him. You see what I'm saying? So you have to figure out not just error, but reversible error that is going to get him back to the courts.
And I want to make sure that I understand. You're an attorney, and I'm glad that Queens mentioned this. You are in the field, but you have other people that's also in the field. Like, for example, me myself, I'm not an attorney, but I'm a 12-year advocate for pew violence prevention. So I've read all the laws. I've fought against certain things as part of my organization. I also am very politically connected. So I understand what you're saying, but there are also other factors that come into play when other people want to come into the conversation, right? To bring up other things. And sometimes I just feel that, yes, of course, we have to make sure, because when I talk about pew violence, and when I talk about the rules and regulations and all the stuff that I know for many years, I'm very stern, on point. I know what the hell I'm talking about. I know where we're going with this. But I just feel maybe more of an advocate, I would give more credence or more to other people's way of thinking instead of just shutting them down. I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just saying that maybe some people are thinking that way. You know what I mean? So
I get that. I get that part.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. But I understand where you're coming from. I do understand where you're coming from completely. I know exactly where you're coming from. I just wanted to say that. That's all.
And I definitely understand that. And because one of the things that I constantly run into is that. But with that being said, the reason why I do have to be that way is because I want to make sure that when we go on the route of actually trying to help him, that we get him, if we're trying to help him, that we get him in a space that's going to actually do something that's going to get him where he needs to be. Which, if he's trying to get a new trial or have a new opportunity, you got to take the routes that are going to get him there. Because I constantly have conversations with people about some of those other things, I go like, no, that's not going to get him there, because I know it's not going to get him there. So I want to make sure that it gets them there. And for me, it's like, I want to make sure that if we're going to engage in that part of the conversation, that we get them there. I'm very careful about it. I even had a conversation with Mel, because I was like, Mel, I'm probably going to talk a little less even about this case as a whole, because some people sometimes will go, well, Calvin, you're not positive enough. No, it's not that I'm not positive enough about it or that I'm close-minded about certain things. It's just that I have to be stern about things because I want to
being a
make sure that
realist.
exactly, I'm giving them the reels, and I don't want people to chase rabbits down holes where we need to be like, hey, if there are problems and there's 30 potential things, let's spend our resources on these 4 or 5 because these 4 or 5 are the big nuggets. Those other 25 things aren't going to get you anything. And that's just me doing this almost a quarter century. And then people have to understand, I'll give you a little bit more background about me. I've not only done this for almost 25 years come November. I went to the high school. I'll tell you it like this. I went to high school for public services, government, and law. So, which means from the age of 13, I'm 53 now. For 40 years, I've been either practicing law or going to school to become an attorney for 4 decades. This is all I've ever done. I have to be careful because my mind is so fast and so quick and it's filled with so much knowledge about these things because this is what I do. I live it day and night. I hardly ever even take vacations. Mel will tell you that. So that's why it is for me. And so I got to be careful about that kind of stuff. And if I come off like that, I'm sorry, y'all, but when I see stuff like this, I want to make sure that people, when if we gonna take chances on certain things, let's take chances on things that are gonna win them something.
Calvin, can you
Okay, so
address?
oh,
I'm sorry, real quick. Can you address her? She's been asking this question for quite some time.
Okay. Mel, when he's done answering, could you ask my question regarding the attorney process of how he would handle it if ever in this situation this could help others? You find an appellant attorney that has been doing it for a while. Appellant attorneys are different from me. They're more bookwormy. The guy that I use, which I think about, they're thinking about, because I talk to some people that are from the family, not from the family, but are close to the Anthony family. They're thinking about using this guy, maybe Russell Wilson. Russell is a great attorney. I think he he's the person that I send my appeal stuff to. And he also does the stuff, when you do continuing legal education, he teaches the stuff for the state bar. So Russell's really, 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 really good about that kind of stuff. And that's kind of the appeal process. When you appeal a case, you get a transcript, you go through it, and you try to find mistakes. You try to find mistakes where the judge maybe did not rule properly on an objection. You try to find mistakes where, let's say, in jury selection, we're doing voir dire, where maybe those 3 educators got taken off and or maybe he made a mistake there. There's definitely going to be an argument there. You go through the transcript to where maybe something was allowed and should not have been allowed in there. But people that are the appeal attorneys do that. They file their notice. Usually they get about 3 or 4 months, sometimes up to 5 or 6 months, sometimes actually to write it. Usually it's done within 90 days. Sometimes they get extensions. But they get the transcript and they go through with a fine-tooth comb. Then the Court of Appeal, they file their briefs. Then the Court of Appeals they get their briefs. Sometimes they'll have the oral arguments, but sometimes it's mainly the briefs that get filed. But they file their briefs, and usually there's a decision. Usually within a year of them getting it, because they have a lot of cases that are on that particular docket. So the appeals process for Karmelo Anthony, knowing it was such a serious case, is probably going to take anywhere from a year to a year and a half before we get a decision back on his appeal.
Okay, Queen.
He definitely answered my question. So let me ask you something. So if they do go with that attorney or whatever, was what you say, Russell
Wilson, yes.
Wilson?
Mhm.
Do you believe that he can get it turned around to where he's not convicted or lesser time?
Well, this is the thing that everybody has to look at. I always tell people you got to have proper expectations when you deal with cases. And I'm careful even in talking about this because there's just stuff about this cases that none of us know, right? We
Right.
know a lot of it, even though we went and said it, but they're, like I said, I don't know Carmelo's part. I don't know his story. So
Right.
I'm kind of apprehensive about that. But like I said, knowing that you just went to trial and got 35 years, let's say they come back and say, okay, we're going to give you manslaughter. We're going to give you 15. We're going to give you 18. We're going to give you 10. We're going to give you something else. You got a decision that you're going to make. You can either try to fight it again or knowing you were just throwing at 35. If you're a young man like that, you might say, I'm going to take a deal because I don't want to be looking at a long sentence like that. So sometimes that can happen where somebody's granted an appeal and the state goes, you know what? We're going to offer him this because we don't want to have to go through that anymore. The community can't handle it. People are about to people at each other are at each other's necks out here about the whole situation. So we're just going to do this with it. And so sometimes that's the situation. And that's another reason why I'm going to get to this part. I really wish people, not us, because I think we're being very responsible about how we talk about both sides. I really wish people would be responsible about what they say about folk. You know what I mean? And y'all know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Digging people up. I'm talking about somebody said something about digging people up and stabbing them again. And then some people are saying some very nasty stuff about Carmelo since he's been in there. That kind of rhetoric coming from that side, that kind of rhetoric coming from this side, that doesn't need to happen because that hurts the resolution situation. Let's say if he does get an appeal. So I think that everybody that is allegedly involved in so-called trying to help him, they need to chill. Now, I know we had a situation here recently with Charleston White, and I really don't like talking about him. But I don't like that. I don't like what happened. Because man, that young man, for whatever you think about him, man, he's really going through it. And you playing all this stuff with this that person's daddy and his daddy, man, it's not about you. It's not about you. It's him. You got a kid that's dead and you got a kid that's in jail for 35 years. You arguing with them dads, and that doesn't help him. You know, y'all know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, well, we trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like, that's not right. Why you doing that? That's
Well,
not right.
I agree with you. I agree with you, but I want to have a caveat on that. Uh, again, as a survivor, a family member who lost a loved one due to violence, I don't talk about the Metcalf family out of respect, right? Survivors, you have like a membership you don't want to be part of.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
do want to make sure that we make it clear, though, that Jeff Metcalf is very angry and he's using a lot of racial tone.
mhm. Oh, I know. I
All
know.
right, he's calling
Mhm,
Carmelo the watermelon and the felon.
mhm. Oh, yeah. I know.
A lot of tones, and also him, and it's being alleged. I haven't seen it, but some people have said that they're making it very difficult for the survivor for Carmelo Anthony family, and they're attacking them. Now, I
Mhm,
could honestly, personally say that I spent every court date with my sister. We went through the trial. In fact, my sister just texted me and said that he's going to be out in 2 years. We have never pursued the family of the young man that killed my nephew or my sister. My
mhm,
sister, she lives in the neighborhood with that family. She wouldn't
mhm,
have thought, it wouldn't have occurred to her to go and harass the family
mhm,
of the kid. It's just not done. You understand? I'm saying, I
mhm,
know it's not a
mhm,
certain situation, But in this high profile case, when the father is coming out and he's being very, using these racial terminology,
Mm-hmm.
just really in
Mm-hmm.
your face constantly, you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be in mourning, right? And you
Yep.
can't tell the survivor how to react. I could tell you
Yeah.
that. You
So
can't do
does
Yeah.
that.
that help Carmelo
Now,
for
Not
his
this,
appeal?
yeah, this is what I tell. This is what I tell people. I don't know if that helps him as far as his appeal. And what I'm telling y'all is, I get what she's saying, but what I'm saying is, for me, mom, dad, Metcalfs, y'all argue, say what y'all got to say to each other. But that foolishness that Charleston White is doing, I don't like. I ain't trying. That's what I
Right.
was referring to. I'm referring to that. Like, no, I'm not. I'm referring
spoke
to that
about him
foolishness.
too. I'm not
So,
sure if you're
but
I
aware.
get it.
but does it help? But does it help
That
Carmelo's side? I mean, does it help
it doesn't.
with his appeal? No, for I'm talking about us, about the Jeff Metcalf saying all that. Will that
It
help?
doesn't.
So what's the difference if we go at him then?
No,
I don't
listen.
like
Let
what
me.
you
Let me.
said to me because
No, no,
you mean
no.
to tell me
Listen.
this man can
No,
say what he
listen.
want to say and
Listen.
we just supposed to be
No, no.
quiet?
Listen.
No.
Listen. Listen. Let me tell you this. This is what
I
I'm
want to
trying to tell y'all. Let me help y'all out so y'all understand. Let me help y'all out so I understand. If it comes on appeal, there may be a time where they go to their family and say, well, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we offer this person a lower deal or a lower amount of time? Y'all could agree with me or not agree with me. Don't matter to me. But I'm telling y'all, my whole deal is, regardless how anybody feel, I don't want this young man to have any opportunity of having to be down there no 35 damn years. So I'm willing to do anything in the world if it's in my power for him to get less time, because I understand how, because I've had clients to get
Okay.
some time. I don't want him to get that amount of time. I understand looking ahead that if he were to get an appeal, what would happen if he gets an appeal and they decide either we're going to try this case or we're going to offer him a deal? They're going to go to that Metcalf family. They're going to go to them and they're going to go whatever. They're going to go to them. Okay. There's going to
But
be a
Calvin, you're not
conversation.
making sense.
Listen,
What
listen. Look,
difference does it
no,
make
listen,
if he
listen.
already hates
I,
black people?
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But what I'm trying to tell you is, I understand what you're saying. My deal is, I don't want it amped up, because even in that case, as long as there's an opportunity to reduce his time, that's what I'm about. If that young man is going to be helped, I'm not in my feelings about him and what he's saying, because with me, with people that are like him, I consider them folks that talk like that. I'm not gonna argue. I don't care what they think about me. I'm a little different. So if we're gonna keep it 100, I don't care what they think. I don't care what they say about me, because I don't care. I think people like that are Neanderthals to me, as far as I'm concerned. Because I don't really pay attention to what they say or how they feel or what they think about black people. Because I look at people like that like they're cave folk. I just look at them. I go, whatever you say is what you say. I don't care. But my
Okay.
whole deal is, for this young man, I just want any opportunity for him to get less, because I've sat next to young people staring at that amount of time, and I looked at that young man's face and he looked scared. I don't want everything out here going crazy, everybody arguing with each other, everybody at each other's necks. And if that's going to make it harder for him to get less time, that's where I got a problem. I just don't want nothing that's going to cause him to even have the opportunity to get less time than he got. That's where I'm at. So
Okay,
that's
so
why
let
I'm
me
doing it. I
okay,
don't
so
care
what you're
about how somebody
saying
else feel
is
about it.
so what you're saying is ig- ignore somebody got feedback. Can you go on mute, please, ma'am, with the pink? Thank you. I appreciate you. Okay, so what you're saying to me, right? And to everybody is do not respond, try to keep the peace. Okay. I get that
No,
part. Just on behalf of
it
Carmelo, correct? I'm still
it
lost what you're saying.
now it's not even that. it's not even that to an extent. If you're gonna have the conversations, because I'm not gonna let somebody just talk crazy to me and not really say nothing back. What I'm saying is, when I looked at what Charleston White was doing, and I want y'all to understand what I'm really saying about him and his situation, because I really
Okay.
hate going at him like this. He clout chasing and trying to make money and get attention
Right.
off that boy's name. If that's really what I'm saying.
Okay. I see what
And
okay.
because he's not really, to me,
For him.
he's not standing up for us, because he was
Facts.
willing to throw daddy under the bus, right?
That's true. Yeah.
He ready to throw daddy under the bus, and then all of a sudden, I guess because Mr. Metcalf won't hug him now he going off on Mr. Metcalf. To me, that doesn't do any good for the young man.
I see what
That's
you're saying.
more of what I'm talking about.
Okay, because I
Now,
was confused. Like, we not going there, Carmelo. We taking up
no,
for him. You see what I'm saying?
no,
So
listen,
what you said is what Charleston's doing, not as opposed to Carmelo's supporters.
yeah. Let me tell y'all, this is what I tell y'all what I'm saying when it comes to that. When it comes to Jeff Metcalf, y'all not directly talking to Mr. Metcalf, calling him, going at him, going on the end. Did y'all see what happened today, what Charleston White put out earlier today? Did y'all see
Yeah,
what he
it
put
was
out today?
disgusting. Yes.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, I
If
got you. I feel
have
you.
everybody watching this scene that has everybody seen what he
Yes.
put out earlier?
I went live on
Well,
it. Yes, I
I
seen it.
saw what he did. I just
Stick.
wanted to make sure that we understand that I personally don't have any positive energy for Charleston, because he went against my son on a show one time. So
Oh
while
See?
he
wow.
was against my
You see,
son,
that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
but with that
That's
said,
what I'm talking about.
I have to be fair. I will always, it will always be stuck with me and him. No disrespect to him. If you know who my son is, you know what you did. But what I would say is that Jeff Metcalf, I thought, went after Charleston Huston first. That's what I thought. I thought that he was responding to what Jeff Metcalf said, and this is why I say that I would not touch that argument between the two of them, because I think because Charleston said that he's going to help raise money, do everything he can to help Karmelo Anthony. That's why Jeff Metcalf, the father, went after him and called him a shorty or punk or something like
Correct.
that. And then that's why Charleston responded to that. So I just want to make sure that we understand the whole thing. We don't have to agree with Charleston, but we just want to make sure that I thought he was responding to what Jeff said.
He
And,
was.
That's all I want to say about that.
but
Yeah.
with that being said, then he came back and went out to the dad,
The
called
dad.
him weak and
Yeah.
doing all this. And see, this is my whole deal. Man, whatever that man did or didn't do, man, leave that man alone. Don't mess with that man right now. His son just got 35 years. What are you doing? Don't play with that man like that right now. Don't do that.
Right.
I mean, somebody got to have some sense. See, that's why I don't like all that, man. That's just, to me, I don't like all that. I don't play like that. Like, for
Right.
me, and from the era that we're from, and I'm going to tell you, I guess Charleston maybe is around my age, maybe a little older. Guys from our era, we know you don't do that. We know better.
Right.
Like, I don't play like that. Like, guys from my era, when you threaten them, now we come like he from down here. I'm from Texas. I'm down. He even for work. Like, where I'm from, if you threaten me, I'm coming to look for you first. You don't do
Right.
that. We don't do that. I tell you what, you go, okay. I gotta come take, because I'm not gonna be looking over my shoulder. And that's just how we do what we do when we're now here. So there's certain rules that you don't violate. Doing what he's doing, he wrong for that. And that's why I'm upset with him, because you're doing all of this stuff and it doesn't help this young man.
Mm-mm.
It's not helping this young man. Whatever you're doing now, believe me, Jeff Metcalf has done his own hole with some of the crazy stuff he's saying. Hey, whatever he say, do what you got to do with him. But what Charleston is doing, I don't like, man. You're
Don't
going at
hurt
this man's
Carmelo.
daddy. Yeah, don't hurt Karmelo, man. Going at this man's daddy. That's what
Yeah.
I don't like. And then you're going back and forth with this guy and his dad. That's not. And then, to me,
Become a
you're
shit
making it
show.
all about you. Yeah, you're making it all
Yeah.
about you, and it's not helping this young man. I don't play like that. I
Right.
just don't.
I
Because
would
when
like
people go to jail, from what I've seen, and it's funny, I know, like you've been in a situation with your son. When people go to jail, man, that stuff is for real. It's for real.
I
Time
want
is for real.
since Mel is not here, I'd like to introduce Miss. I think it was you changed your name. I don't know if you changed your name, Miss Pretty P. Hi, how are you? Did you want to come in and ask a question or make your statement? Because Mel stepped away. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Are you like, oh, I'm not Miss Pretty P. I'm
Oh,
Mel calls us Remedy.
Remedy. I'm
Okay,
sorry. I thought
remedy.
I saw Pretty P on your name. I'm sorry. It probably was some that. Yes. Go ahead. Would you
Mhm.
like to say something?
Um, yeah. I want to piggyback off of something that Mel said earlier. Calvin, with you being a defense attorney. Now
Mhm.
we watch, I know we see a lot of stuff on TV, not firsthand, but how come is it for a prosecutor or whoever is trying to establish this case to present a tool, a weapon, whatever you want to call it, that was not even used in the actual event? Now you have all of us wondering what it really was, because some people are referencing multi-purpose tool, some are saying a knife. You mean to tell me they collected evidence from that scene, but they didn't even present the real? Am I Mel, am I wrong? Did they not present the real tool that was used?
What
No,
they
you're right.
but let me tell you what happens, right? When somebody gets cut now, listen, let me help you.
If y'all
When
can hear me,
somebody
I can't hear y'all, so I have to
but
leave and come back.
yeah, but when somebody gets cut, right, there's gonna be blood on it. If they have it, if and what they do, they're not gonna wash it off. They leave it in its current state. And so then they got to pass it around. They put it in a bag and you pass it around. You're gonna put it in front of the jury. Now, if you're a defense team, if you're a defense team, do you want that actual? Because all they're gonna do is get a replica of the same thing. Do you want a bloody knife being passed in front of a jury, or do you just want the replica of the thing? Or are you gonna get mad at that? I don't want a bloody knife in front of my jurors.
I want the
If
real
it's
thing,
if it's the
Captain.
same thing,
No,
I
I
don't
want
want a bloody
if
knife.
it, but listen,
I don't want the
can't do
exact
any
knife
more
with blood
damage
in front of my
though.
jury.
The
But it's the
real
same
thing,
thing.
the real knife, bloody or not, cannot do any more damage than the one that you are implying that he used. They're already showing graphic evidence. They
Mhm.
already turned the
But I
cameras to
wouldn't.
show them
I
things that
mean,
we couldn't.
but
So it's not gonna
I'm
hurt
not going
any of
to. I'm not going to advise my client to be. If I'm sitting there and a murder happened, I don't want a jury looking at a bloody knife right before they go back and deliberate whether I'm going to go free or not. But we can disagree on that. That's fine. But I would never agree to do that. I mean, because if it's the same thing, it's not. That's not going to turn the case for me or not turn the case for me. If it's going to be a replica and I know it's a replica, I'm fine with that. I don't want that bloody knife going there. That's not going to change the case one way or the other for me. So that doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm
but
just going
I
to go
need
ahead
you. But
and
I need you to show me what I use though, and I needed to be
uh,
established that this is
look,
mine. This is mine. This was my property. I had this. I need this actual thing that was used in my presence to lay eyes on and to
but
see
let me tell you, let me
beside
tell
the
you,
man.
let me tell you what typically happens. They have a conversation with the state. They have a conversation with Carmelo. The attorneys are going to say, hey, this is your knife. This is what they have. Are you okay with them? Do you want this bloody knife in here in this courtroom being passed in front of a jury? Or are you okay with the replica? The attorney is going to say, you know what? These are the same things. Here's your bloody knife. Here's the replica. This is what we're going to do. Do you want to use the replica or the bloody knife? They do that way before we get in there. I'm going to say, you know what? I don't want the bloody knife being passed in front of an open jury right before they're deciding my fate. So that's not going to change anything for us. But we can disagree. But I
Yeah,
think we can move on. We can
no,
disagree.
no.
I'm not gonna.
I
I'm
got
not
one
gonna.
more
I'm
thing
not
to
gonna let
say
that
to that.
happen.
But I have one more thing to say to that, Calvin. It's
That's
important to
fine.
note that it was raining. So any blood, a lot of blood, we don't know if it was a lot of blood or a little blood. We don't know what was on there. And now we don't know because they did not present the actual tool that he
But
used.
but this
I
one
don't
I'm.
care how much blood was on it. We don't know. But it was raining. I know some could have washed out, so that definitely could have helped Carmelo, if you
But
ask me.
but what I'm telling you, it was under a tent. And I'm telling you, they have this conversation between the both sides before they go in there. I know this is what I do. And even with that being said, I'd rather not have a bloody knife in front of somebody that's getting ready to deliberate whether I'm going to walk up out of there or not. If I know it could be, it's the replica, it's going to be the same thing, I'd rather not have something with blood on it in front of my jury. Uh, that's just that. That's just my opinion. I mean, you can do it the way you want to do it, but I know because I do it. All they're going to do is say, hey, this is the bloody knife. Here's the piece of evidence that's in the bag. Do you want this one up here or we can just use a replica? I'm going to tell them to use the replica because I want that bloody knife in front of them folks before they decide on whether I'm going to be found guilty or not.
So you mean to tell me of all the stuff that we've seen, and we've seen some gruesome stuff, they give the people an option? I think it's the prosecution's job to show it and get the
they can, of
result from the
course,
jury
listen.
that they want to.
They,
Why would
but
I
listen,
not
they.
present this bloody knife?
But let
Why
me
would
break
I
something
not
down to
show
you.
them what he
But,
did to this man or this child to convict him?
but that's what I'm trying to tell you.
I
They
can't
have
hear
those.
y'all. If the
They
sound went
have
out
those
again, so I gotta leave
conversations. We can
again.
disagree with it. We can move on from that. Let's disagree with it and move on.
Well,
We can disagree with each other.
Well, I do want to mention, Calvin, I think a lot of reasons, and I'm going to let it go with the multi-tool purpose also, because like you said, it was used in the crime. So I'm going to let it go. But I do want to make sure that I mentioned just one thing before I let it go. I think a lot of people, the reason why a lot of people keep pushing that terminology is there's so many people on the other side that's coming and saying that it's a knife, as if it was like one of those huge, either kitchen knife.
I would like it to be referred as a multi-purpose tool.
No, I understand, Mel. I just was mentioning to Calvin.
Yeah.
I think the reason why everybody's keep trying to stick to that point is because even I don't know if you saw a chat where somebody say, "Well, what was it, a multi-purpose tool or was it a knife?" You understand what I'm saying?
It's on the screen.
Yes,
yeah, you know what I would say. You know what I'll tell you with that. I know exactly
Calvin.
what you're saying.
Thank you, Calvin.
I want to refer to it as a multi-purpose tool.
That's what
as much as possible. Because what I'm going to say, but see, once again, what I'm making my argument, what I'm going to tell people is I'm going to call it a multi-purpose tool as opposed to a knife.
Yes.
I'm not going to say, it's a multi-purpose tool. I'm going to say that most of the time. And once again, there's always a way to say things, even when I refer to my clients, I don't say the defendant. I say the citizen accused. So I don't even use the word defendant when I refer to people in court. I say the citizen accused. I make it a way upon which I go the citizen accused. I don't even say defendant. And so those are things where exactly you want to refer to things a particular way because there's ways that you can soften the hit. And even when asking questions, sometimes you can personalize people a little bit more to get the things you want to get because that's what you want to do. And then the other part of it is there's always reasons why we do things we do. Like I'll give you an example. There's some people, as gory as things would have been in that particular courtroom, some of the things that they saw, there's some people that have just not ever seen anybody bleed, seen blood, been around any of that. And the more of that you expose them to, the more that they're going to want to think something really bad happened and somebody shouldn't walk up out of there. That's been my experience. So for myself, I want them seeing as less of that as possible. Because for a lot of people, you have to understand, you got some people, man, they don't see no blood ever on anything in those situations. You got some people who ain't never been in a fight in their life. You got some people that honestly, some people that end up on these juries, they be the quietest one in the room and end up on there. And then they end up looking at stuff that they never ever wanted to see in their lives. So you always have to be careful about exposing them to certain things. Like you just got to be careful. And then on top of that, when you go through your jury questionnaires, you got to also know your jury. So put it like this: when that jury is seated, you do get bits and pieces of information about the folks that are on that jury. So sometimes you're using that to determine, okay, I got to be careful with that person, because sometimes you're looking at jurors based on what they do for a living. Are they homemakers? Are they doctors? Like doctors and nurses may be used to seeing blood. Um, Somebody that is a seamstress is not, an older 65-year-old seamstress is not used to seeing blood. So you maybe you got two of those on there. Maybe you don't want them to see that. You know what I mean? So there are numbers of things that are going on in the background that will cause you to say, you don't want certain things to have to be like passed around like that. And then on top of that, you just got to be careful with that kind of stuff. And you're passing around too. When you stab somebody, they put this knife in a bag, and it's like a biodegradable little bag, little and you're passing it around, and it can get kind of icky, sticky, nasty. Do I want that in front of somebody that is deciding whether to find my client guilty of killing somebody? Man, I might see, and guess what? Guess what you do? Check this out. Guess what you do? And this is what people don't understand. Let's say we're gonna make that decision to have the real bloody knife in there, right? Guess what I get to do in closing arguments? I get to use it, don't I?
Yeah, you're gonna show it again. Yeah, to use it and show it
So
again.
I get to take that bloody knife with
Yeah.
all that blood on. We're gonna use this green piggyback to my daughter's piggyback. We're gonna get the bloody knife, instead of that nice clean replica. So the last thing they see, if I'm a prosecutor, you know what the last thing I'm gonna do? Because the prosecutors get to go last, right? So for anybody deciding whether you want the replica knife or the bloody knife, the minute that defense attorney says, "Oh, I want the real bloody knife," I'm okay with the bloody knife. You know what I'm gonna do? Oh, I'm gonna start dancing and be happy. Because you know what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm gonna do when I get my last 5 minutes of that closing argument? That's gonna be my last prop. That bloody knife. I'm gonna lead them. The last thing they see before they leave the courtroom and go to the back is gonna be a bloody knife. That's why you don't do that. So that's why I'm trying to have that conversation with y'all. There are things that I have to see coming. And if I don't see them coming, it's a problem.
All right, guys, we have Big Phil in the building. Shout out, Big Phil. You want to introduce yourself and tell us what's on your mind?
How you doing, Mel? Thank you for adding me up. Calvin, how are you doing? And of course, Mama Flip.
I'm doing all right, man.
I know her through her son, Queen's Flip.
Exactly. And
I'll say this: I bring a different. Yeah, I do I know I have a different perspective because I sat at the defense table as a defendant in a murder case in Washington D.C. Charged at 17, acquitted December 28th, 1992. At 19. So I this case kind of reels home a little bit, just a little bit, not the same, particulars. Um, Calvin, I would like to ask you this, and I did come to the party a little late if I was watching this.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of consideration to the Metcalf family, and I get it because they are the ones that lost their son.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of underhandedness seemingly at play in the way this whole case has been handled down to the trial. even down to the sentencing. Now, I'm not boots on the ground in Texas, but I've never heard of a case being handled from the verdict being read to sentencing within such a short time and not allowing the defense to prepare and bring forth witnesses, character witnesses, to speak on Karmelo's behalf as to why he should not receive the maximum or nowhere near it.
Yeah, that scares me. And
The
I'm gonna tell you what
ineffective
you're saying.
counsel situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
That scares me, man. Listen, let me tell you something.
Okay.
On that kind of
Yeah.
conviction, I gotta call my client to be able to talk for himself, to not be able to get that amount of time. There's only a couple of reasons why I wouldn't call my client. There got to be something bad somewhere from somewhere else for me not to call him, and it has to be something bad that's gonna hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it got to hurt him bad. And see, that's what's bothering me about this case. Like, I want to know what's there, what's so bad that's there that, and I'm telling y'all, listen, with my life on the line, you ain't want me to talk for myself? Nah, something's there. Something's there for me, something's there. I have to be able to I'm gonna humanize him. And see, we're gonna start now. You kind of late to the party because this is our day 2. First thing I would have done is I wouldn't have
Yeah.
had that press conference. Day 3. My bad, my brain. I wouldn't have, you're right, because we done been through it, ain't we? I wouldn't have had the damn press conference in the beginning. That was a mistake number 1. When I say how big that mistake was, that put them in a corner, Phil, because what it did was, and I explained this to everybody the other day, it put all the attention on this case on Karmelo, negative attention. The person they had speaking for him had already had problems. That person himself had legal problems. And they hired him as a spokesman. Nothing against him, but I'm just calling it what it is. You ain't helping him, so it is what it is. Then in addition to that, you put Karmelo's face for the whole United States to see in a press conference that you can go back and replay. Not only that, you put the mom and dad in a compromising position. Because at a press conference, you got mama's face and daddy's face plastered all over the internet. Everybody's watching. Dad goes to work the next day. He's selling cars. He was selling 25, 30 cars a month. He can't sell no cars no more because they're getting to financing. He's trying to sell a car, get the financing, the dealers council, because they realize who he is. So he went from selling 25, 30 cars a month. He's selling 1 car a month. So now he can't work. Mama's face on there, she was working. Now they realize where she's working. So now my son charged with murder. I can't work. We can't live at the house we were living at. I just spent all my money to get him out. Now everybody know how I look. They didn't find out where I live. Now I got to sit there, go give sin stuff. Now I got to go spend money to live where? I can't live in a regular house no more. I got to live in a gated community because I'm getting threats. Now everybody looking at all this money we're raising, looking at it like we balling. Well, I got to live like this because them people after me. Not only that, with all of that stuff going on now because of the press conference situation that happened in the beginning anyway, that did not do anybody any good except for the person having the press conference. Now I'm in a hole. Now, when I'm trying to go negotiate something with Collin County, I ain't negotiate no with you. Now I'm hot. You done made me hot.
As a defense attorney, would you have not called Hunter as a hostile witness in that case?
I could have potentially called him.
Being as though Hunter did 2 interviews and they were conflicting interviews about what took place.
I probably would have called him. But One of the things you got to be careful with, I'm in Collin County. Out there, I don't know if that is a good thing out there because of the kind of juries you have out there. And I want to correct some people on some things. When you pick a jury in Collin County, you're not going to get a high African American content jury.
Mm-hmm.
In a dream jury, you're gonna get 3 jurors. Maximum, if you're lucky, if you got a rabbit's foot that day, you're going to get 3 black jurors. If you got a rabbit's foot. Typically, you're gonna get 1. You might get 2 because Collin County's population is only 11% black. Its voting population out of that 11% typically is about 8%, 7%. So literally, 1 black juror is probably what you're gonna get. 2 if you're lucky, 3 if you got a rabbit's foot, and a 4-leaf clover. So your peers out there, you're not gonna get a lot of African American people on the jury, and it's extremely conservative. All of the representatives out there are Republicans. That's what you're gonna get. So it's a very conservative place. So let me help you out with something that if you're not from Texas, why would I go get in one of the most conservative counties in this area? Why would I go get one of the most liberal activists from Dallas to come out and do a press conference after I have a black kid that stabbed a white kid and the white kid died? Why would I get that person to go do a press conference in one of the most conservative places in this area and do a press conference? It doesn't make any sense. That's where it all started. Some of these cases get managed in the beginning, and then these people got cornered because you have to understand they're from Louisiana. They're not from here. It's problem number one. Louisiana is different in what? Louisiana is what? They're different, right? They work on a code system. Every other state in the United States have statutes. They have codes. Number one. Number two, they don't know the lay of the land. They don't know the trust up here. I think they've been up here 3-4 years total. So they have no idea who to call, no idea who to trust. They just, they Louisiana. They're not even from Texas. So that's a whole nother problem within itself. So that's another reason why I wouldn't have had that damn press conference. Because not only are they not from here, they're not even from Texas. And after killing somebody who is from there, I'm gonna have a press conference. What you having a press conference for? Let me help y'all out. Have y'all ever heard of anybody? You said you had a murder trial or somebody was in a murder trial?
I was. I actually was.
Your ass didn't have no. You didn't have no damn press conference, did you?
No. I did have to take the stand on my own defense, but
okay,
I definitely had no press conference.
Your ass didn't have no press conference. And I tell you what, if I wish somebody would come in, let me tell you something. If I was representing somebody and somebody was talking about having a press conference, man, I would flop around on the floor like I'm having a seizure, man. I would fall on the floor like I'm having a damn seizure if they tried to tell me they was going to have a press. We'd fight. I literally would fight somebody before I let them go up and have a press conference. I would. They'd be like, what's wrong with him? I'd be like, man, why'd you hit him? He talking about having a press conference. He lost his damn mind. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. And it created all kind of problems, bro. So what happened is, when you did that, you gotta know. If we're talking about the racial component, we're talking about Collin County. When you had that press conference, You put Collin County on notice. You put the Attorney General on notice. You put the whole damn state of Texas on your damn neck. So any chance to resolve this any other way, you effed it off. I'm no fool. Why you think that boy got sentenced and sent to TDC, got 1 day? I ain't never seen that in my life.
1 day. I've
And listen,
never
I've
here to
represented some people
Cali
that
or
they did
nowhere
not
else.
like.
Yeah.
Listen, I've represented some guys that they didn't like. They ain't never went nowhere in 1 day. The fastest I've seen
Yeah.
somebody go is about a week, and that's when they really didn't like them. But a day, that's what bothers me. But like I said, there are some things in this case that we don't know. But to me, I'm thinking there has to be something with Karmelo, or there has to be something in this case for him not to testify on his own behalf in sentencing.
I don't know if this was addressed. You said this is day 2 or 3. Why was there? Thank you, Mama Flip. Why was there not more pushback with the allegations with the father, the judge, and the prosecutor?
Because that was fake. That was fake. Because I'm gonna be real.
There's one picture, but they said there's another picture.
No,
where
that
they
was fake
actually-
too. No,
Where
that was fake too.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna tell you why. Because I know how they look. Because I've been dealing with them for 20-something years. And that's another thing that was angering me, because I'm like, why would y'all play like this? Why would y'all put a picture up there? And there was some reputable people that I was like, look, y'all been up here. Y'all know how these people look. Why would you put that picture up there? Y'all know that's not Roach and Willis and whoever else y'all say it is. Y'all know that's not them. Don't do that. That's what, in that picture, I had somebody come at me because I said, man, y'all need to take that down. That's not who that is. All kinfolk, and kinfolk. I'm like, man, what are you talking about? I'm telling y'all to take that down because it's fake. It's making you look illegitimate. It makes us look like we're foolish.
Yeah, because I heard that one picture was fake. I heard that, but I heard that it was another picture that actually
I saw
had-
both of them. Both of
Okay.
them, both fake. They're both fake. I looked at them and I was like, and then they tried to make a picture of Toby Shook and the Worski. I was like, the guy I was like, yeah, that's Toby, but that's not Worski. I talked to the other guy. Matter of fact, when they put the picture up of Toby, they said the other guy was Worski. I talked to that other guy like 3 days ago, and he ain't Worski. I know how Worski look. Worski tall.
But let me ask you this then, right? If it was all
Yes.
fake, if it was all fake and there's no relationship there, how is it not only the pulling off of the getting them up out of there, getting them to prison right after the sentencing, like you said, somebody got pissed off, but to try to send them to the family members' prison?
That wasn't
How-
that
that's
wasn't
two
that wasn't true either. That wasn't true
Talon-
either
Talon
because
Metcalf?
that wasn't true
Bird?
either. That wasn't true either because guess what? Number one, that Metcalf wasn't related, and then matter of fact, he's not even there. No, listen, no, it's not. I'm telling you what happened because I know because the lady of the prison where he's at, actually commented because they send you to this one little place and then they send you to the place that you're actually going to be. So
Like
that
diagnostic or whatever.
yeah, exactly. That Metcalf place, they're not related to him. And then the place that he got sent to, where he's at now, is not that place where the Metcalf person is at. So they're not even related. So it's like one of those things where that stuff, that wasn't true. Now, I'm going to tell you, the fastness of it happening bothers me. But once again, I think that comes from what? When y'all had that press conference in the beginning. You put too much attention on your guy. You put your guy in a hole. You put your guy in a situation where there was going to be extra resources allotted to them being able to prosecute the case. There was going to be less an opportunity to resolve it without having to go to trial. There was going to be less a chance of trying to get this case resolved without having to go to trial if you thought you could get a better situation for him without putting him at risk of trial. Those are the things that happened because you had the damn press conference, and I think that's where a bad start was. I think they got some bad advice from the beginning, And I think it snowballed on them because they just didn't know.
I believe that too. I believe bad advice. I believe they picked the wrong attorney. I believe that just he didn't get adequate representation to me. And I'm outside. I wasn't in the courtroom, but just from the things that have been pulled out, sounds to me there weren't enough experts pulled up as defense witnesses. Now they might have stipulated on certain things, like you were saying about the knife earlier, the multi-tool
Mhm.
earlier. They might have stipulated on certain things to kind of condense
Yeah.
the time of the trial or whatever. But
I want to add something else for y'all that's
sure.
important. I want to add one other thing for y'all. Initially, there were other attorneys involved. I happen to know one of the other guys, but there was some kind of conflict between their PR person and the dad and the other attorneys. And I think that the first group of 3 attorneys that were there, I think that would have been a good group of people. That might have worked a little bit better because they were a little. You had more diversity with those 3 people. I think that might have worked better for them. I actually know the guy, the male black attorney that was in that 3 grouping, and I think that would have worked out fine.
Better.
But
Mm.
I think there was some conflict between the PR person and dad and them that caused a problem. Because I also think on that team they had somebody that knew the lay of the land out in Collin County, which they needed somebody from out there that knew the lay of the land out there, because I honestly know that the attorneys that they did have did not know them like that out there like that.
Let me ask you this, and I don't want to hog the floor.
Yeah.
If you were defending this case, do you feel as though, with all that you know and or heard, that either you could have gotten him off, and or would he have gotten a much lesser charge, like criminal negligence, criminal negligent homicide, or whatever? I forget what the least.
We would have started. We would have started different. There would have been no press conference.
Mhm.
I definitely would have not put him in a situation where we get a murder charge. I would have tried to
Yeah.
get him a manslaughter charge potentially. I would have needed to talk to him a little bit more because I need to know. And like I try to tell everybody, I haven't heard his voice. I haven't heard his full side of his story. I would have to know more about like what really happened in the damn tent. That's what's racking my brain. Like I know we hear
Yeah.
everybody else's damn story, but nobody's heard his voice. We ain't heard his side. But with that being said, if he tells me, Calvin, I did A, B, and C, and I go like, you may have went a little too far, then I'm gonna try to get him a manslaughter, get him a better deal, but I'm not exposing him to no 25, 35, 45 years. That's not gonna happen. I
Yeah.
think manslaughter would have been better, or criminally negligent homicide would have been better. But I think that
Yeah.
went out the window the
Because
minute.
of all this stuff.
Yeah. And y'all, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go because I got to get up in the morning. Everybody's on me. And dinner has to go and I got to eat.
A family,
Bella's here. Thank
family
you.
and being
Yeah,
involved.
yeah. But once again, everybody, listen, I know we disagree with each other through this. I know I'm pretty stern. I'm a particular way. But I'm just like that because I'm very passionate about what I do. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that I do this for real. I do this for life. I grew up in a community where I saw my friends go to jail for 20, 25, 35 years because they were not smart enough not to sell dope. I grew up in the Dixon Circle community in South Dallas. We had the first Crip set in the city. So I grew up around guys that were in trouble constantly. I mean, when crack cocaine came to Dallas, it came to Dixon Circle first. And so we were ground zero. We had the first Crip set in the city. And so my story of being where I am and going to where I went to is quite a remarkable story. I grew up with Larry Johnson that played for the New York Knicks. We grew up in the same community. He tells the stories, same stories I tell about growing up in the hood. And I actually went to the NBA draft as Chris Bosh's attorney later on in life. And God has been great to me But during those times, I also saw a lot of guys I grew up with sell drugs, get in trouble, and go do 15, 20, and 25 years in prison. So when I'm fighting these cases, I fight them from a different perspective because I see the death and destruction of when people go to prison and how it affects their families and how it affects the children of these people who go to prison for a long time and how it continues to hurt the generations that come after that. So when I fight for these folks and I'm passionate about it, I want everybody to understand that's where I'm coming from because I see how much it has hurt people. I've seen mothers cry. I've seen people go to prison when I'm 16 and they come out when I'm 36 and I'm looking at them and I'm like, man, and they're looking at me like, and I'm just like, wow. Last time I seen them, I was on a basketball court. Now I'm in a suit and tie carrying a briefcase. So that's why I'm as passionate as I am about it. So once again, I appreciate everybody coming on, and we'll be doing this again soon on other cases. Peace and love to everybody. All right, y'all?
Appreciate you.
All right.
Thanks so much, Calvin.
Different voices, but the same song. Building a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.